Hello, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. This is a video that really is long overdue. It's a subject that I've been thinking about talking about for quite a while, and that is the subject of silver and gold as an investment. I hear it so many times, people talking about how silver and gold are investments, but really, that's not the case. The metals themselves are not investments at all, by any stretch of the imagination. And yes, investment can be defined all sorts of different ways. Most people define an investment as something for which they put money into a commodity or some sort of stock or some sort of item or anything really that they put money in. And in turn, it will either make them money or lose them money. In other words, there's bad investments and good investments out there. And people are saying, the critics of silver and gold, and say, well, look where silver and gold is nowadays. They're down from their highs in 2011. Silver and gold are bad investments. And to which I reply, they're not investments at all. That's your first mistake. In fact, I had somebody send me a message, and I can tell they were very hurt by the precious metals, quote, investment that they put into ounces and ounces. In fact, well over $100,000, quote, invested in Silver Eagles, only to lose, 40 and 50% of its value. And I replied to him and told him, that, hey, your first mistake, after apologizing, after feeling, sympathizing with his loss, is telling him your first mistake was thinking that silver was an investment. It's not. The metal itself, these metals themselves, are merely hedges against inflation or deflation, or economic uncertainty. You don't even have to have inflation or deflation. They provide a safe haven, an insurance policy, a hedge against economic instability. And we see that time and time again in the markets where there is uncertainty in a certain situation, something the Fed chair says or some economic indicator, and then we see the stock market lose, 30 to 100 points or whatever. And these precious metals go up, and they gain some. The prices go up for these precious metals, and so that's why gold and silver are not an investment. They are simply and purely a hedge against economic instability, and that's how they should be looked at. And people will say, well, what? Why should I put money into these precious metals if there's not going to be any kind of return on them in the future? And the answer to that question is actually pretty simple, and that is you should not think of them as something to where you're going to find some sort of later return on these things. It's just simply there to protect you, to preserve your wealth, not to increase it. And I think if more people realize that and they acquire these precious metals, the world will be a much less confused place, for sure. Now, as for me, I collect them not only because of their status as a hedge and as money as well, but also because of their beauty. Both of them are beautiful metals, and you can get silver and gold in all sorts of different styles and sizes and designs. So it makes for quite an attractive portfolio to collect these precious metals, and to do it, with not a whole lot of money put into it. A 10th ounce of gold right now will cost you about $150 or so, and an ounce of silver you can probably get for about $20 right now as of the recording of this video. So it's a good way to put aside and preserve a little bit of your wealth. But the most important reason why silver and gold are not an investment is because they are money. And so you don't really invest in money. And that's the key. You just put aside money. You put it in the bank. You know, worst case or the best case scenario, if you put enough money in the bank, you'll earn a little bit of interest on it. Putting in there, of course, you don't earn interest on silver and gold, but you do. It does maintain its value over time. And you know, I use the old sort of an analogy that you could take 1 ounce of gold today and cash it in and buy yourself a nice suit. And you could have, 100 years ago, you could have taken 1 ounce of gold that would have been in a $20 gold piece. And with that $20, you can go in and buy a nice suit. So they kind of maintain their value through the years, which is a very nice, to me, that's the dividend that pays the most, because, you know, you have the confidence that indeed, even though we may not use it as currency, gold and silver are indeed money. And gold and silver, again, to reiterate the point for those of you interested in acquiring some, you don't have to get a full ounce of gold. You don't even have to get a full ounce of silver. You can get as small as a 1/10 ounce of silver. And yes, you'll pay a premium for the size differential. Obviously, this 1/10 ounce of silver will cost you quite a bit compared. But, you know, if you're on a budget, there's ways to acquire these precious metals and do so to preserve your wealth. And you may pay for that size differential, but nonetheless, you know, in my opinion, it's always good to be able to have that option to be able to save some money, to be fiscally responsible when acquiring these precious metals. So there you have it. I hope this video was helpful for those and considering precious metals, or those who are critical of precious metals. Because time and time again, the metals themselves, they have intrinsic value, whereas investments, you're essentially you're speculating of their value in the future and to what kind of return you can get on them, or what kind of dividend that they will pay. You know, some of these assets and things like out there, like land and other things, you know, they make you money. You know, and you know, that's the thing. But you also have to pay taxes on them. You have to pay taxes on land and the like. The silver and gold are exempt from the system. It puts the power squarely in your corner to have these precious metals. So there you go. Gold and silver, not an investment. Gold and silver, a preserver of wealth. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to y'all for watching, and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.